Well, Zane, I wish I could be sitting with you in the sunshine, mate, but we're going to catch up virtually today. I want to chat a little bit about life before you arrived in supercars. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Now, you raced a little bit of Formula 4 here in Australia, but I'm really keen to know what it was like when you ventured overseas. Tell me about that experience racing in Europe.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because obviously when I raced here I was only 15 I think, and then moved to England when I was 16, lived with a family over there, no relation, but they've had a few drivers stay with them in the past, I think Karun Chandok, some people like that. So that was pretty cool. Raced in, with RR, who was Kimi Raikkonen's team, so that was a cool experience. And then the second year obviously moved to the Formula Renault with Arden, lived in Banbury I think it was called, by myself, had an apartment. So yeah, at 17 it was a pretty big life change, especially going from home where I'd obviously spent all my life on the coast with the family and stuff, moving overseas and doing all that. It's pretty crazy.
What was that experience like moving in with a completely different family, and how did they come to have so many different race car drivers stay with you?
I don't actually know how they originally started having drivers with them. So yeah, it was an older lady called Zelda, and she had some grandkids and stuff stay a fair bit, so they were my age. So yeah, it was actually really good fun. Yeah, they were a good bunch of people. Food was nice, which is always a big positive, and yeah, we just had fun. It was a little town called Ripley, had a few soccer fields and stuff like that. So yeah, we were making advantage of that as much as we could, and yeah, I was just riding around on my bike. Obviously didn't have a license, so couldn't drive a car, and yeah, just went to gym, hung around the factory, annoyed the boys, and yeah, it was a cool experience. I really enjoyed it.
Were there many other Aussies on tour with you at that point?
The first year, I think it was Tom Maxwell, Tom Randall, Lewis Leeds, and then the second year when I did it in Renault, you then also added on Oscar Piastri, Alex Peroni. I think that was it. So yeah, there was a fair few Aussies, you know, in the Formula Renault. We probably were one of the biggest nations, so that was pretty funny. You go on to the other side of the world and you have so many of your mates that you've been racing against for such a long time. It's sort of weird.
A lot of people don't know that Kimi has his junior development team and that you were lucky enough to drive for him. What was that experience like, and did you ever get to meet him?
I didn't get to meet him, unfortunately. I think as a F1 driver you're quite busy. Obviously that stage is at Ferrari, so probably had a fair few commitments, and yeah, it's a busy man. But yeah, it was a really cool team. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I feel like I learned a lot. I think my first year I had something like 30 test days or something crazy like that. So as a junior driver, it was the best way to learn, and yeah, I still, even now in the supercars, draw back a lot of stuff I learnt back then and bring it into my craft now. So yeah, it was a real pivotal stage of my junior career.
What was it like racing alongside British touring cars? Because you guys were the support category, much like Formula 4 was to supercars, yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. The racing was a fair bit different in there because they had some front-wheel drive cars, some rear-wheel drive, and they didn't mind bashing into each other a little bit. So it's exciting racing, but usually only half the field probably came back with a straight car. So entertaining, but yeah, a fair bit different to the supercars, and the crowd was a fair bit different, and obviously the weather, not as nice here. Our events are a little bit more enjoyable, I think.
You had a couple of good weekends though, didn't you? Picked up a few wins, particularly Croft. How was that weekend for you? You seemed to dominate that one. Yeah,
that was definitely a breakthrough weekend for me. The previous round, it was a bit of a shame. I was leading one of the races and I clipped the tyre bundle on the apex. That sort of put me out of the race. So yeah, I was pretty gutted after that. And then yeah, 2 weeks later came back. I think won the first race and then got 2 seconds. One of them in the dry, one of them in the wet. I think pulled it as well. So yeah, that was a big turnaround. And then remember, I also had a really good weekend at Knockhill in Scotland. I still think that's probably one of my favourite tracks I've ever been to. It's a real small track. The venue's not amazing, but it's like a roller coaster to race around, so that was cool. And then, yeah, got a double win at Silverstone as well. So that was a pretty cool experience. I think that's definitely a bucket list track for most drivers, and to get a couple of wins there, it's pretty cool. What
do you take away from your time in Europe, mate? It was obviously a really cool thing to do, but you were so young when you did it, so you didn't really get to do like the typical European holiday or anything like that most young blokes go and do.
Yeah, I've taken a lot away from it, like especially as a driver. Learnt so much, and like first year, like I said, with all the test days, that was a really big thing. The second year, I think that really helped me with sort of the way I attack new tyres and stuff, and I feel like that sort of benefits me in qualifying even now. I feel like qualifying has been quite strong for me this year because there was a real emphasis on new tyres. I remember one of the test days I did like 8 sets of new tyres in one day, and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a different world. Personally, you know, it was quite a big thing moving across so young. I feel like I really grew up in those years and sort of became a little bit more worldly. Obviously, at that stage, most kids are in year 11 or 12, so it was quite a different direction to go. But yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. I absolutely loved the experience, and you know, getting to travel around, race at all the tracks that I dreamed of racing at, a place like Monaco and Spa. It was yeah, pretty surreal, and I still pinch myself that it happens sometimes. Sometimes I sort of forget how lucky I was to go over there and race, and you know, super thankful obviously to my family for giving me the opportunity, my sponsors, and yeah, I feel like it's something that I'll remember forever, and yeah, it's just a cool experience.
I think it certainly helped you out in terms of results, because your first year in Formula 4, you were very young, mind you, but you didn't set the world on fire, and you're a little bit behind the guys like Tom Randall. But then when you all came back from Europe, you were right with him. And I remember, I think it was Barbagallo and Super 2 when you were at Matt White, and you picked up a couple of pole awards that day, and it was like, wow, Zane Goddard has learnt how to qualify a car, clearly. And it seemed to be, was that the biggest improvements that you made?
Yeah, I think so. Like, obviously the first year in Super 2 wasn't amazing. Like, had the occasional top 10 and stuff, but it wasn't fantastic. And then obviously the second year I got the opportunity in a good car with Matt White, and you know, first round was really well. It went really well. Obviously I got the double pole at Perth, so yeah, that was a cool experience, you know, to back it up both days. So yeah, I think definitely proved that the one lap speed's fast, and you know, I feel like most racers have had good racecraft this year, just sort of gotten a little bit unlucky with a couple things here and there, but yeah, like even if you compare me to 2020, I feel like 2021 Zane's a fair bit stronger, so just got to keep ticking that off. Got another 5 rounds coming up, so if we can get a few more top 10s in qualifying and in the races, I think that's got to be the target, so yeah, we'll see how we go.
It's been good to slow down for a moment, mate, and catch up on a little bit of your history. Cheers for the chat.
Cheers, Chad. No, it's cool.